Archangel Michael says this message arrives like a key turning in a silent lock, opening a room in your life you have never entered. The air around you shifts as though a curtain has been pulled from a window and a wind you did not expect slips into your home. Every detail from this moment gains weight, and your ordinary night becomes an appointment that destiny has kept without delay. The street outside holds the hush of a theater before the first line, and your door becomes the stage. Footsteps retreat, swift and purposeful, as a dark shape settles against the threshold and claims your attention. You feel the tug of recognition, as if your future sent a courier to arrive before your courage could scatter. The bag is matte, not polished, and it swallows the light like a secret that learned how to breathe underwater. Its seams are tight, its corners blunt, and a thin ribbon of tape runs along the top, stern and unblinking. It waits with the calm certainty of a messenger that already chose its audience. Your heartbeat slows into a deliberate drum, not from fear, but from awakening. Something in you stands taller, like a soldier answering a roll call that echoes inside the bones. The room grows brighter though no lamp is touched, and your name stands up in the silence as though summoned. You have been preparing for this without knowing it, collecting small pieces of proof with each faithful step. A sentence you wrote months ago returns now like a compass pointing north. A promise you made to yourself clears its throat, ready to be kept in full. The city holds its breath as if the night has paused to make room for your decision. You notice the edges of the bag and the way the fabric yields then holds, like velvet trained by discipline. You sense it is not heavy with objects, but dense with meaning. You reach toward it, then stop, and in that pause you feel something ancient align within you. Not dread, not doubt, only understanding that some thresholds deserve ceremony. You straighten your shoulders because the future recognizes posture. A paper is tucked beneath the handle, crisp and pale with a thin diagonal crease where it was folded. Your name is written there in a hand you almost remember, as if a lost season borrowed a pen and learned to write like a friend. The letters do not shout, but they carry the gravity of a bell. You lift the note and the room seems to lean closer, listening with you. The words flow like a river that knows its path and refuses to be diverted. A sentence meets your eyes and places something bright into your palm that no one else can see. Archangel Michael says the bag is not a threat, it is a threshold, and thresholds rarely come dressed as gifts. He says it holds a secret that will shake your world, not to harm it, but to settle it into its rightful place. He says the shaking you feel is the exact movement required to detach what never belonged to you and secure what always did. A warmth moves along your spine and spreads like dawn along a shoreline, slow and deliberate. The letter tells you that the past has run out of places to hide, and that your courage has finally learned how to sit still. It says truth has a schedule and your name is circled on it with steady ink. You step back for air and discover the air steps in to meet you. You realize the room is larger than it was, as if your acceptance rearranged its walls. The ceiling remembers the sky it once came from and lifts an inch. The letter says the bag carries 3 gifts, each wrapped in a kind of silence that can be trusted. The first is a record of what was done in your absence and against your name. The second is proof that your name resisted, even in rooms where you were not welcome. The third is a key that does not open doors but closes traps. You feel a pressure in the atmosphere ease as if a storm decided to sit and listen. The house stops creaking like an old storyteller and settles into attention. Even the ticking clock hits a softer rhythm that fits your breathing. You peel the tape and it yields with a gentle sound that belongs to completions. The zipper moves in a clean line, not catching once, as though it had rehearsed this moment around you. When the flap falls open, the quiet inside is grateful. The first packet rests on top like a confession that learned how to keep eye contact. It is bound with a loop of red thread, neat and unapologetic. Your fingers find the knot and tug until the circle breaks and the pages loosen into truth. Inside are copies, signatures, dates, and messages that were never meant to see your daylight. Names that pretended to be your allies stand in clear light, wearing their choices without disguise. You see how meetings were called when you were absent, how votes were tallied without your voice, and how decisions were wrapped in your name but fed to another plan. Your chest tightens then opens, not with fear, but with the clarity that refuses to be startled anymore. You trace the path of a single sentence and watch it lead to a door where another person's hand rests on your handle. You watch that hand falter as the light of exposure spreads like sunrise across a tiled floor. The packet shows timelines that mirror your days, loops that cost you sleep, and tangled threads that explain the weight you carried without answers. It shows the one who smiled while keeping score, and the one who stayed silent while your name was traded. It shows the moment the trade was refused by a power bigger than the room. Archangel Michael says you are not here to beg for your own life to return to you. He says the return has already begun and your task is to receive it without apology. He says the bag arrived because your spirit signed for delivery long before your courage learned the signature. You lay the first packet aside and the floor seems steadier under your feet. Your breath falls into a rhythm that sounds like steps on a hallway that leads somewhere safe. The corners of the room lose their shadows as if corners were never meant to host the dark. The second packet is thinner, but heavier with purpose. A narrow strip of silver tape crosses its face like a horizon at dusk. When you lift it, you feel the weight of loyalty that refused to break. These are messages you sent into the world when you felt unheard, now returning to you with replies from places you could not see. There are declarations you whispered while deciding not to give up, now measured and recorded like rainfall in a long drought. There are echoes of your resilience, stitched to evidence of providence. You see your own handwriting on a page where you promised yourself to be relentless. Next to it, a stamped paper confirms that the doors that slammed were marked for demolition. Beyond that, a tidy photograph shows a meeting where your name was defended by a quiet ally who held your absence like a shield. Your heart steadies into a mature courage, not the noisy kind, the kind that builds houses without spectators. The edges of the past begin to soften as the truth assigns itself to the right shelves. The bitterness that used to search for a place to sit gets gently escorted to the door. You find a letter inside the packet addressed to you from your future, signed with a version of your name that chose wholeness. It tells you how to stand when the room grows large with opportunity. It says to keep your hands open because closed fists cannot receive. Type Amen to get blessing 333. You do not argue with the letter because you recognize the voice of the life you wanted when you were honest. You remember the afternoon you decided to stop negotiating with your worth. You remember the night your endurance graduated into faith that does not shout. The third packet rests beneath the others like a cornerstone. It is sealed with wax the color of a deep storm, and pressed with a mark that looks like a wing in motion. When you break the seal, the scent of rain moves through the room though no window is open. Inside is not paper, but a small box, dark and finely made. It opens on a hinge that respects silence and reveals a key that glows like a memory returning to tell the truth. The key is not metal, yet it carries the weight of a promise that survived. The inscription on the box is simple and firm. It speaks of closures that free paths, of endings that liberate beginnings, of doors that must never be reopened. It tells you this key is for finality handled with dignity. You feel history sigh as if centuries stepped out of your shoulders. You feel the floor rise to meet you like a friend who arrived on time. You feel the horizon move a breath closer, unafraid to be seen. Archangel Michael says this key locks the last door that your enemies built inside your mind. He says their plans depended on that door remaining ajar, leaking small drafts of doubt at inconvenient hours. He says when you turn this key, you will hear a click that sounds like a storm giving back its thunder. You close your eyes and know exactly where that inner door stands. You have walked past it countless times and called the draft normal. You have lived with its chill like a stranger camped in your house, and tonight the guest is told to leave. The key fits without effort because you were always the proper owner. The turn is smooth and decisive, without drama or extra motion. The lock answers with a finality that dignifies your years. Silence arrives, not empty, but fertile. It fills corners that used to host arguments that never ended. It invites in a peace that brings tools and begins building. You sit with the bag open and understand it has done its work. It did not come to stay, it came to hand you yourself. The floor no longer tilts, the walls no longer lean, and the future steps out of the fog. You gather the packets and the box with a care that honors what they represent. You place them on your table as if setting the foundation stones of a new address. You do not rush, because arrival deserves steadiness. Outside, a car door closes at the end of the street with a decisive rhythm. Somewhere, a light turns off because a plot has exhausted its last excuse. In the distance, a stray dog stops barking, as if the neighborhood learned a better language. Your phone buzzes, not with chaos, but with confirmations that had been stalled behind old barricades. An email clears that was once stuck in limbo, and the subject line reads like a sunrise. A message arrives from someone who finally decided to be honest, and their words travel without disguise. You step to the mirror and find your posture taller by choice, not tension. Your eyes hold the kind of calm that survives storms and tells storms where to put their noise. Your mouth no longer tastes like old arguments. You return to the table and begin to read slowly, carefully. You write your own notes in the margins with the handwriting of someone who trusts their mind. You underline names not to carry anger, but to carry clarity. The room around you changes without moving a single chair. The color of the walls deepens, the floorboards sound more like music, the ceiling no longer presses down in subtle ways. Your home becomes the first safe country you ever ruled fully. The night rolls forward and refuses to scare you. The quiet is not a trap, it is a studio where your next chapter is sculpted. Your presence has weight and the things that used to ignore you now make space. You remember the moments that took the air from your lungs when promises were broken. You remember the hours that stretched like winter in a city without lights. You remember the names you had to bless in order to keep your own name clean. The bag sits like a witness, satisfied. It did not overthrow your life, it clarified it. It did not add confusion, it rinsed it away. You notice one more envelope tucked into a seam, thin and determined. It bears no stamp and no name, but it hums with intention. Your fingers feel a current when they touch it, like a letter that learned to breathe. Inside is a single page with 4 short lines, neither dramatic nor timid. The lines are instructions, not orders, written with respect. They guide you to make 3 calls, send 1 reply, and say 1 sentence to yourself aloud. You follow the first instruction and the line connects without delay. A voice answers and parts of an old misunderstanding collapse like tired scaffolding. You speak without aggression and watch the room on the other side regain oxygen. The second call ends with a gratitude that sounds like someone finding their house keys. A worry you did not realize you held falls from your shoulders and lands without a sound. A pathway opens in your calendar like a street cleared of debris. The third call is short and steady. You say what is necessary and nothing more. The door at the end of that conversation swings on oiled hinges and does not slam. You send the reply that used to wait on your tongue and feared its own courage. You invite the right people in and watch the wrong people drift toward exits that welcome them. You do not chase, because departures are also part of order. The final line instructs you to speak 1 sentence that belongs to you. You say it quietly in a room that means it. You feel your life answer and move closer by half a step. Type Amen to get blessing 777. Morning thinks about arriving and decides to practice along your windows. The bag, now lighter because its secrets are shared, looks almost ordinary. You smile because ordinary things are the crown of brave lives. You prepare coffee with a reverence others might reserve for ceremonies. The steam rises and carries a calm authority into the corners. Your senses learn a new way to recognize safety. A soft knock touches the door, polite and unafraid. You open it to find no person, only the soft light of a street that finally trusts you back. The threshold no longer feels like a border, but like a welcome mat that knows your name. You take the bag to the closet where you keep tools that repair rather than destroy. It does not belong among trophies or trinkets, it belongs beside the hammer and the measuring tape. Its usefulness is its honor. You consider your day and it arranges itself around you like a well-planned map. Tasks that once demanded apology now request your leadership. The hours promise to behave because you will. Messages begin to collect like well-mannered visitors. They offer what they should and take what they must. None of them try to steal your focus. A memory floats up of the first time you felt outnumbered in your own story. You nod to that earlier version of you and say thank you for keeping the fire alive. The flame is larger now and it does not flicker for gossip. The people who plotted find themselves standing on floors that got honest overnight. Their voices sound thinner because lies lost their microphone. Their steps shuffle because the hallway decided to be straight. You hold no parade for their mistakes. You hold a standard for your boundaries. You hold your head the way a lighthouse holds a beam. Across town, a document reaches a desk it had been denied, and the signature it requires finds the correct hand. The ink dries with dignity, not with hurry. The stamp lands in the corner where it belongs, without fanfare, without regret. In another building, a door that used to be closed to you swings on an almost invisible current. It opens because it cannot justify being shut anymore. It stays open because truth taught the hinges a better song. You walk through your place and notice how every object relaxes around you now. The couch looks more like a guest who plans to be kind. The books look like counselors who do not judge your pace. The mirror holds your face without stealing your energy. The kitchen holds your appetite without accusing your hunger. The desk holds your plans without laughing at your ambition. You sit to write because writing is how you pour shape into courage. The words arrive without stutter and settle where they ought to live. You do not have to bargain with your own talent. You speak aloud the names of the people who will stand with you in the next season. Some are old and proven. Some are new and ready. The phone rings and a voice that once hesitated now sounds clean. They tell you the delay is over and the path is cleared. They tell you to come as you are, not as a disguise. You place your hand on the bag one last time before moving on. You do not cling, you acknowledge. You do not worship the event, you steward the result. Archangel Michael says the shaking has settled the foundation and the house will hold in all weather. He says your name has been restored to its true sound in rooms that once used it without care. He says forward is the only direction that matters now because backward does not exist for you anymore. You walk to the window and the world sends you a quiet salute. Trees offer a steadier green as if chlorophyll learned your story. Clouds cross like calm ships on good water. You feel a new chapter leaning gently against your shoulder. It smells like fresh wood and ink and clean metal. It tastes like the first bite of something you cooked for yourself with confidence. A small sound at the table draws your attention back to the third packet's box. The key glints and you understand that its work continues where your attention cannot. It is the kind of protection that does not knock, does not boast, does not sleep. You set boundaries in your calendar the way a gardener sets strong edges along a tender bed. You make time for repair the way you used to make time for worry. You water your courage with routine.